Welcome everyone to another edition of, another podcast of the Stop BS Now English Classroom. We're joined today by no one, perhaps the ghost of Shakespeare. He must certainly be, or he will be, if he could, rolling in his grave as I put him in his place. Maybe that is the grave. Today we're looking at Hamlet. Every scholar's, well, nearly favorite and most praised play by old William. As usual, extremely overrated. Scholars looking for deep morals and psychological insights, frankly, are wasting their time, have done quite a good job of imagining something of value in Hamlet. There are no psychological insights here. There are no morals worth adopting. And we really need to stop imagining that. Old William was some independent thinker who was able to, or expected to, deliver truths and insights to his esteemed audience. A lot of how to describe such people. The elitist upper class of Elizabethan England, mostly white men, highly sexist, very racist. How do we imagine that a man paid to entertain such trash could have somehow been expected to teach morals and psychological insights to such an audience? Don't make me laugh. You might as well expect the same from the Clintons, the Trumps, etc. You will not catch them in a library reading anything sensible. If anything sensible can be found in a cinema, you will not find them there. Now, let's get to work with Hamlet. Hamlet is a virus. Yeah, I want to make this topical. As the existing corona drama has monopolized our media, monopolized our minds, and driven us mad with a kind of fearful obsession. So, Prince Hamlet did the same to the Danish royal family, particularly his stepfather, uncle, King Claudius. They're so distracted that they seem to forget they're in a state of war. Norway's Prince, what's his name, Fortinbras, has essentially declared war. Claudius was aware of this and has sent a letter to the boy's uncle, who is bedridden and likely unable to intervene on Claudius' behalf. So obviously the focus should be on protecting Denmark. That is the king's supposedly greatest duty. Now, Claudius goes entirely ignored, and when he finally sends a letter to Claudius requesting permission to march his troops through Denmark so that he can wage war against Poland over some useless piece of land. According to Hamlet, it's worthless. We might be a little suspicious when when your enemy asks if he can march through your country so that he can attack another, uh, yes, I think one might be suspicious, especially because marching through Denmark makes no sense for a Norwegian army looking to invade Poland. They they would have saved a great deal of time sailing through, I forget the name of the sea that connects the Scandinavian countries or from the south and separates them from Ukraine, Poland, Denmark. In any case, it's an obvious lie through which Claudius should have seen. And as a prudent and responsible, perceptive king, well, not as one, but if he were one, he would have denied that permission. He didn't, and therefore Fortinbras marched through Denmark, and the play ends with the Danish family killing itself, nearly dead, dying, and Fortinbras stepping in, essentially victorious, without having to shed a drop of blood. It was shed for him. And Hamlet says, essentially, you can have my kingdom. Wonderful. Wonderfully stupid. The whole thing is immensely stupid. And that is the way Shakespeare wanted it. This is not a play that wants to reveal anything deep which we could learn from. This is a play meant to mock a foreign royal family, a play meant to reinforce the belief among English elites that they were the geniuses of the world and everyone else is stupid. But let's look for a little more evidence, shall we? Go back to the beginning. Why not let Prince Hamlet go to Germany? It was his request. And it was denied. Why would they deny him that permission? His mother and his stepfather? Surely they must have suspected that Hamlet suspected that they were guilty of murdering his father. When a prince suspects his father has been murdered and he's in mourning, the murderers, when they've stolen his inheritance, one might say, his position as his rightful position as king of Denmark, those murderers might assassinate him, exile him. Certainly, when he asks for permission to leave the country, they should be more than glad to grant that permission. But no, they wanted to keep him around. And what was the result? Right, a great deal of distraction and stress and drama. My little keyword, corona drama. Completely unnecessary drama. And of course, they brought this drama upon themselves by being greedy enough to kill a king, King Hamlet. Although in their defense, one might remind the reader that the ghost of King Hamlet admitted he was a sinner and was in purgatory for that reason. So perhaps he wasn't such a good man. Perhaps Gertrude had a reason to want him dead, a defensible, justifiable, legitimate reason for him to be dead. So why do we judge him? Isn't it stupid of Hamlet to weep for such a man? What did this king, whom he never fails to or never ceases to praise, what did this man do for him? Not much. In the last act, Hamlet speaks to the skull of a deceased court jester and essentially reveals that this jester was responsible for raising him. Well, isn't that the norm among the upper class? They never have time to raise their own children. Certainly not well. So What's the reason for Hamlet's love or obsession with his father? Flattering obsession. There is no good reason. He's just stupid. Scholars should get over this. Everyone in this play is stupid. At least that's how Shakespeare wished us to perceive them. There is no essay to be written about this, perhaps, except an essay on stupidity. Let the high school teachers assign that as a topic, finally. Students might enjoy it. Any other evidence that Shakespeare was making a mockery of a foreign royal family? Well, we have Claudius, the murderer of his own brother. Doesn't get much more corrupt. Then married his brother's wife. And that takes it up another notch, doesn't it? And not only that, but the ghost of Hamlet, of King Hamlet, mentions that his widowed wife and his brother are committing incest. Imagine that. Here's a brother accusing his brother of committing incest. This implies, of course, that King Hamlet and Gertrude are also siblings. Here we have Gertrude marrying first her brother and then another brother. It's a triangle of incest. I think this might outdo any historical examples, certainly all the ones I am aware of. And is there any evidence that any such thing ever happened in Denmark? Not that I know of, but I wouldn't doubt that such evidence might be hidden. In any case, what is Shakespeare's point? No point except to degrade, demean, mock, caricature, insult a foreign royal family. By the way, we might look at some, sometimes it's time for, or maybe Shakespeare should have looked in the mirror or shone the mirror on what his own royal family was doing. And we could do that. I think there are some websites on the internet that explore the strange, immoral sexual practices of royal families. I think we presently have a prince and princess who seem to have run away from their royal family and found, I suppose, refuge here in Canada. Yes. Any more evidence of stupidity? Really, there's piles of it. I don't have time. I don't wish to bore you with every detail. Let's deal with this as briefly as we can. The war, of course. Let's go back to the war, or the imminent war, for which Claudius should be preparing. What is he doing instead? Of course, he's wasting time with wondering what's bothering, trying to figure out what's going on with his stepson, Prince Hamlet. Apparently, he's too stupid to guess that the boy might be annoyed, troubled, infuriated by the fact that his father's murderer is now his stepfather and his mother's husband. No, instead he's wasting a great deal of time discussing this with his idiotic advisor, Polonius, who insists that what's bothering Hamlet is love for his daughter. Well, he was in love with, what's the good girl's name? Ophelia was in love with her. So why would he be bothered? Yes, well, after all, Polonius and his son Laertes persuaded Ophelia to reject Hamlet's love, Prince Hamlet's love, on the basis that, well, princes really can't decide who they marry, and princes don't really have control over their destiny, their future. Princes can't decide whom they marry. Perhaps not 100%, but surely when your daughter has a chance of marrying into a royal family, one normally, I'm not talking about me, I would avoid royal families like the plague, but I'm talking about normal people. They would highly encourage their daughters or sons to marry into a royal family. I do not know of any case yet in England in which the girlfriend or boyfriend of a royal family member refused to marry into that family. And the attraction to wealth for most people is irresistible. So really bad advice, at least from Shakespeare's perspective, intended perspective, really bad advice from Polonius and Laertes. And that advice destroyed the relationship between Hamlet and Ophelia, and effectively contributed to Ophelia's suicide. Again, Shakespeare is trying to highlight how stupid these people were. But I seem to have gotten ahead of myself a bit. To go back to Claudius, yes, not only did he neglect, or what's the word, become distracted by Shakespeare, distracted by Hamlet. I believe even prior to that, he was already partying, right? Drinking and firing his cannon just for fun. So he was an idiot. We don't need to spend much more time on that. Anything else on that note? I think I'd like to go into a slightly different train of thought, that being Hamlet's strange behavior, his mysterious behavior, his overreaction or his reaction. Scholars think it's all about the trauma of knowing his father has been murdered, and that the murderer is now married to his mother, and that Shakespeare is somehow exploring these deep feelings with the 5-act play. Nonsense. There's a very easy and rather comical explanation for Hamlet's behavior. Let's have a quick look at the text and the great soliloquy, I think, in which Hamlet, oh, do I have the wrong document here? I do. This, by the way, is my online book on, well, it's really a chapter in a larger book, but I've packaged it as its own book, Smashing Shakespeare, Exposing Propaganda and Class Prejudice. Not sure I need to resort to this for tonight. There's the section on Hamlet. Most of my analyses of these tragedies have a good deal to say about Shakespeare's bias against the pre-Christian pagan culture, the plant-based culture of the past. I won't go into that today. Who are our rulers? Sick love in Denmark. Most of these notes will be touched upon in tonight's podcast. Now, where's that other document I wanted to show you? There we go. Melt. There we go. The great soliloquy in which Hamlet expresses his feelings after being denied permission to leave Denmark, mad, prison Denmark, for Germany. His response, once he's alone, oh, that this too sullied flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into dew, or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. Oh, God, God, blah, blah, blah. What does Hamlet mean? In my own words, my disgusting flesh, my disgusting body, that's a very Catholic and Christian approach to the flesh. I wish it would thaw and become dew. I wish it would disappear. He wishes he could commit suicide, be dead. Why doesn't he commit suicide? God, the everlasting, fixed a law, a canon against suicide. It's illegal if you're a Catholic. You'll go to hell if you commit suicide. The church didn't like suicide because if you committed suicide, obviously it couldn't forgive you for your sins on your deathbed, final rites. So suicide was forbidden. Now, back to Hamlet's psychology. He's feeling suicidal, feels he can't commit suicide because he doesn't want to go to hell. What's his option? I think the clever boy figured something out. I think he figured out that if he could drive others so mad with anger at him, they might do his job for him, kill him. He wants to be killed. Then he would avoid the penalty for suicide. I think this is a very simple explanation for all his provocative, to put it mildly, behavior, including killing Polonius intentionally. There's no question about that. That was intentional. The man was hiding in a closet of sorts, in the same room in which Hamlet was present, and the man shouted, I believe it was, help, help, help. Where is that wonderful little scene? There we go, behind the arras. What ho, help, he shouts help. That's 3 short words. Are we to believe that Hamlet didn't recognize the man's voice? Not plausible. Are we to believe that Hamlet would think that someone hiding in a closet and shouting for help is actually a threat to his life? Not plausible. He killed him intentionally. Any of his own claims to the contrary are not relevant, are not acceptable. He does refer to Polonius as a rat, okay, as if he hasn't insulted the man enough. Dead for a ducat. Yes, he knew that Polonius did everything for money. He was a hired counselor after all. Well, that wasn't enough for Hamlet. He also had to drag the corpse into another room to hide him, to make life even more impossible for the royal family. And perhaps before I leave this point, Hamlet's effort to get himself killed, let's have a look at his stockings. Right. So after Ophelia destroys their relationship, Hamlet goes to her room one night with his doublet all unbraced, his jacket unbuttoned, no hat on his head. Oh dear. More importantly, his stockings fouled. Yes, men wore stockings in those days. His stockings fouled. What did he do to his stockings? Fouled with what? What kind of excrement or secretion? Something very vile, and purposely so. I don't think he just lost control of his bowels or his erection. Not a chance. He was trying to make a scene. The worst scene possible, a scandal. Something bad enough to get himself killed, because I would think he's far too scandalous to keep in the family. At least send him away to some kind of island for mad people. But his mother and stepfather decided to keep him there. Anyway, there's quite a bit more evidence of Hamlet doing his best to get himself killed. I think you'll find that this explanation works as an explanation for nearly all his behaviors. Granted, of course, when he does get a chance to die, of course he spoils it. And, when he realized he was being sent to England to be executed, he quickly and craftily reversed that fate and returned alive to Denmark. This doesn't make any sense, of course. It doesn't need to make sense. Shakespeare's point is Hamlet is stupid. If he wanted his stepfather dead, could have done that very easily much earlier. If he wanted to leave, he could have done that without permission. If he wanted to start a revolution or a rebellion, he could have done that. Instead, he makes all the wrong decisions, only manages to kill his stepfather at the end, when he is also dying, and a foreigner steps in his place, in his boots, one might say, or into the crown. But seem to have gone off on a small tangent. We should go back to not back to, a new, perhaps the last perspective, that is the religious element in this play should absolutely not be overlooked. Shakespeare and his audience were extremely religious. Religious wars were being fought, after all. England had become Anglican and rejected the Catholic Church a century earlier. Denmark actually became Protestant before England, but our play seems to be set in Catholic Denmark. That would explain Hamlet's obsession with, or concern with, his mother's remarriage, his concern with church doctrine regarding suicide. And it's confirmed by quite a bit more in the play. For example, Hamlet doesn't only ask to go to Germany. No, he specifically requests permission to study in Wittenberg. Wittenberg, oh, Wittenberg, where are you? There we go, it's mentioned 3 times. Wittenberg happens to be the city with the university in which, what's that good man's name? Not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther, the Protestant reformer who lived in Germany, taught in the University of Wittenberg, may even have been educated there. In any case, he was associated with that university. So for Shakespeare to tell us that Hamlet specifically requested permission to go to Wittenberg strongly indicates that Hamlet was interested in exploring a new religion, abandoning his Catholic country and perhaps converting to a Protestant faith. This might explain why the parents said no, although they did not make that clear. In any case, the potential for Hamlet to seek violent revenge should have overridden any concern with religion. They should certainly have granted him permission and been rid of him. They didn't. On this note, I should also add that Gertrude's name, I believe, is based on a Germanic word for marriage. So Shakespeare is again highlighting the importance of remaining married. And it was a bit of an ironic name since she remarried. Again, for Shakespeare's audience, that would not have been such a big issue. They had already been liberated from the Catholic Church and made remarriage and divorce much easier. So for them, Hamlet's concern with his mother's remarriage would make no sense, would be more evidence of stupidity / Catholicism. Finally, there's one other point of interest occurs to me, and that is something regarding Ophelia. A student of mine had pointed out that Gertrude had reported the details surrounding Ophelia's death so well, or so richly. There were so many details that it seemed as if Gertrude was present at Ophelia's suicide by drowning. Now, that was an interesting point, I thought. What if Gertrude had been present and watched the poor girl commit suicide? It would be rather odd. It's far more likely that she took pains to have the girl removed. Assassinated. It was not a suicide. It was probably a murder. Why would they murder Ophelia? Here I have to do some digging to get the quotation. Bear with me as I look for Gertrude's explanation of that day, the day of the suicide. Where can we find that? Commits suicide. She instead, according to Gertrude, slipped from the branch. The branch broke beneath her accidentally. A rather suspicious circumstance, explanation. What motivation might the queen have for executing Ophelia? here in an earlier scene, scene 5, act 4, a gentleman informs the queen that Ophelia insists on speaking with her. The queen has no interest in speaking with her. So, but she finally does ask, what does Ophelia wish to speak about? The gentleman says she speaks much of her father. That's understandable. Her father is now dead, thanks to Hamlet. But importantly, she says she hears there's tricks in the world. Tricks in the world. A simple translation, there's corruption, deception, manipulation. Indeed, she probably suspects that Claudius and Gertrude are responsible for King Hamlet's death. That's probably what Gertrude inferred from this information, and that probably motivated her to execute Ophelia. Why be surprised? This is the same woman who married her husband's murderer. So let's not pretend to be surprised and shocked. A last note on Ophelia's burial. There's more, what's the word? Another reminder by Shakespeare that the Catholic Church is corrupt, as he alleges that the Catholic Church would bury Ophelia in a proper churchyard, despite the fact that she committed suicide, making her a sinner and not qualified for a proper burial. The text, Shakespeare's text indicates that, suggests that the royal family bribed the church with a bit of money and gave Ophelia a dignified burial, if there is such a thing. That's a matter for a more serious discussion of a more serious text, perhaps. This will do for Hamlet. I would like to close with one more note, that there's always one more. As we are in the Corona drama, in which fear and hope are driving people into stupidity. That is, of course, also how literature works. It's the media doing it today. It was literature doing it long ago. Shakespeare was not really part of that. He's a writer of propaganda, hate speech, you might even say, hatred of foreigners and non-Christians, but also, modern literature really has a very simple formula. It's to feed your readers fear and hope, pity. Well, there's also pity for Hamlet. Dickens was a master at eliciting pity for his characters, and fear of what might happen next, hope that they would come to a happy conclusion. Thinking really wasn't required. Our novels push these two drugs, fear and hope, and teach us nothing. That's a tradition, I suppose, they did inherit from Shakespeare, and perhaps even developed it beyond his imagination. So I encourage everyone to live beyond fear and hope, certainly beyond irrational fears and hopes. Let us all do our research, read closely the texts we are taught or asked to read, and read beyond the news, please. The MSN mainstream media, none of that can be taken at face value. We must look closely and question what our scholars, our teachers, our professors, and our media expect us to believe. Unfortunately, most of them are corrupt or too naive to imagine that others might be corrupt, and too naive to imagine that a man with a pen can also be corrupt. That's it for today's podcast. Thank you for joining me, though somehow I feel quite alone. Wish you all well. Good night. Till next time.